Yo guys, it's JJ here, and today I'm going to be walking you through how to make some dark trap beats. But before we get into the video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. We have just passed 1.6k subs, on the way to 2k, and the support has been going crazy, so really do appreciate everyone out there. As well as that, I've got a bunch of free drum kits for you guys, all in the description below, and to grab my latest one, go check it out on my Instagram, again found in the description. But with all that being said, let's just jump straight into the video. So, first thing to know about this dark trap beat, I first of all got myself an instance of Piano V3, and I'm using a nice little preset called the German Classic Clean. Obviously, use whatever piano VST you got, or if you can play the keys, then one better. So looking at the pattern, I first of all start off with the B over here, taking it down 4 semitones into a G, then leave a little space, just because I feel like it brings a bit of tension into it, because it's like cutting off a sound instantly. Then play the G again, in that kind of like 808 bounce, if that makes sense. Then take it down 1 semitone into that F sharp, and rinse and repeat it for another 4 bar, and of course, lower it down a whole octave, just to fill in that lower range and make it sound much more darker and thick. But one thing to note again, if you look at these notes here and here, they are 1 semitone apart, meaning within that scale, notes that are a semitone apart give that dark kind of sound, which is exactly what we want for this beat. And without further ado, this is what the main melody sounds like. For the effects, I kept it pretty simple as the sound is already quite clean, so got an EQ cutting off all my lows. However, I kept a bit of them in, as you can see over here. Then I dug some mids and raised a few of the highs just because I thought it brought a lot more out of the piano. Then I got myself an instance of Valhalla Vintage Verb using this preset that I just made just to add a bit of ambience to the sound. And then last but not least, as we look down here, I have stereo separated it around 20% just to widen it a bit within your headphones or your monitors. Next up, I got myself an instance of Analog Lab 5 using a preset called the Charon. And to note, this preset is a nice little pad, and all I did was start off again at the B, look into an F sharp and then into a G instead, just to give it a bit of variation, add this nice little like ambient top line to the whole melody, giving it again that more of a dark undertone. And to further add to that, we are following the same notes as we did in that previous pattern, just to further reinforce that kind of vibe. And last but not least, clicking Alt R brought up the randomizer, and then I played with this velocity knob just to make it sound a bit more human. And this is what the pad sounds like. There we have it. But for the effects, we got ourselves a nice little EQ cutting off all the lows first. And then instance of Portal just to give it that very nice kind of ambient sound that came with the pad. Then instance of Soothe 2 to act as a compressor. And last but not least, a heavy amount of Valhalla Vintage Verb because I really wanted to drown out the sound again, make it very dark, and a nice little kind of subtle backdrop. And to add to that backdrop, I stereo separated it around 47%, really widened it this time of course, and as I said, acts as like a nice little undertone, so when all the other melodies come in, you'll know exactly what I'm saying. And next up within the sample, I got myself an instance of Expand 2 using a preset called the Wide Saw, which comes from the Hard Leads bank. But just a note, I did up the attack a fair bit, as you can see over here. And looking at the pattern, it is very simple. Again, making use of that G note here and here, and then for some variation at the end of the 8 bar, reusing that F sharp again. So I'm using a lot of the same notes over and over, but then again, there are different sounds, they are spaced out differently, play the different octaves, and that's how you really build up these kind of nice dark samples. And then another thing to note is if we look at all of them, down in the velocity, right, all I did was highlight one of them by holding Control and left dragging. Then, if you go down here, right click, and then play up and down, as you can see, it messes with the velocity of the notes. And the reason I did that is to kind of add like this cool kind of like delay rising effect, which you'll just hear in a minute. But that's all there is. So this is what the lead sounds like. And there we have it. And as you can hear, that lead kind of played more of like an accent, but that's exactly what I wanted from it, and it really incorporates itself really nicely into the sample. The first thing I did to this lead was cut off all my lows and then duck some highs just to create a bit more of like a, darker sound. Then I used some Soothe 2 just to act as a compressor and duck a lot of the harsher highs. And then of course some Valhalla, and then of course some Fruity Delay 3, as you can hear. This is the preset I kind of made over here, and then you'll use that like 4 times to get a nice little bounce going. And last but not least, a heavy amount of Valhalla Vintage Verb, again to really drown the sound out, giving that dark ambient vibe. reverb. And looking at the stereo separation, this was done around 50%. And again, just to widen it within the headphones, it's an accent, so it really plays nicely into the backdrop. And next up, guys, we got ourselves an instance of the Mini VVST, and this is pretty much just like a Moog synth but in a VST form. And I'm using this really cool preset called All I Need Whistle. And looking at the pattern, it is very simple, just following the root note again of that B, playing it at that G and then into that F sharp, again using the same notes again, that 1 semitone apart vibe, you know, giving a dark sound, yada yada yada. But as you can see from all the patterns, a lot of the leads and the pads and all that, apart from the really main piano, as you can hear, apart from the main piano, all the leads, all the pads, they've all been like accent notes, and that's what really gets you that dark vibe, and this just further reinforces that. So without further ado, this is what the lead sounds like. As for the effects, all I did was get an EQ, cutting off all my lows and ducking some highs. Then an instance of shaper boxes you could hear, just getting these notes panning left and right, adding it a bit of movement. And last but not least, a heavy amount of Valhalla vintage reverb, as always. Then to wrap up the sample, of course we're going to need a bass, and the preset I've got is called the Guide V2, coming from Analog Lab 5. And looking at the preset and the pattern, it is very simple, just following the same notes as I did for that piano, as you can see, literally copying and pasting it in, but I cut off obviously that lower part from the piano pattern. But then the final thing I did before completing the sample was I rendered the whole sound out using a sound shifter, taking it down 2 semitones, so now we are working in a scale of A minor rather than a B minor. And without further ado, this is what the full sample sounds like. And there we have it, super dark, super ambient, giving exactly what we want. And now it's time to move into the drums. And just remember guys, all these sounds are from my kit, the Essential Kit, in the description found in my Instagram. Looking at the clap pattern, it's a very simple and basic one. So let's just move into the hi-hats. As for the hi-hats, the pattern is very simple. It's essentially just a 4-bar looped over to make a full 8. So if we just focus in this nice little 4-bar over here, just a note, I got myself like a nice little step roll. Then down here, all I did was go to the magnet tool, use a half step, click this paintbrush tool, and then by clicking a note, all I had to do was click and drag this note in, making a nice little half step roll down there. Then over here, all I did was just play 2 notes beneath the main notes. However, if you see by highlighting them by clicking control and click, then using the scroller wheel, as you can see down below, I am playing with the velocity, just making it sound a bit lower. Then I include 2 back-to-back step rolls over here. Then I introduce again another half step roll, and it is pretty much that simple. That is all I did for the rolls, very straightforward. Just gave it a nice little bounce because the melody already does a fair bit, so I was quite happy with that. I wanted to keep the drums relatively simple for the hi-hats. And without further ado, this is what the hi-hat and the claps sound like. And now onto the 808. First of all, now we are in this new scale. You gotta remember it again, 2 semitones below. So the new root note is A. Then I'll play it into that F. Then play again with the F and then down into the E. And pretty much I just followed the piano pattern. I didn't really change it up that much for the 808. It just goes really hard. 808 hitting with the keys always goes hard. So that's one thing for these dark beats. And then looking at the kick pattern, it is very simple. All I do is follow my 808 pattern and just keep it in the root note of C. But one thing guys I like to stress in all my videos, what I do for my 808 and my kicks is if I click Control A, highlighting all my notes, then I grab my mouse and click that scroller wheel down and push it all the way up. As you can see, I max my velocities out, and the reason I do this is because it makes your 808s and your kick much more punchier. And leading on from that point, artists really enjoy that kind of sound. It really attracts them over to your beats because you're trying to make some dark, aggressive, hard-hitting beats. So a bit of sauce for you guys, so take it on board. So with all that being said, this is what the 808 and the kicks sound like. And last but not least, we're going to go over some perks. First of all being the zap perk, repeats every 4-bar, place it down over here. It's a very nice little zap, kind of like laser gun perk that I've got, so repeat that every 4-bar. And then I've got myself something called a Luger perk, which is from my kit again. Play it every 4-bar, except I play it in this instance like in the second half of the 4-bar to space over the perks a bit. And now guys, without further ado, this is what a dark beat sounds like. And there we have it. Hard hitting, super dark, exactly what we wanted, exactly what we needed. But now it's time to go over the structure of the beat. Breaking this beat down is pretty straightforward. Starting off with the intro, which is just a nice little 8-bar. Got my main piano playing alongside that bass, and then that really cool like lead accent that I had going on. But coming into the chorus, all I do is got myself 2 8-bars, a total of 16, which just makes it very nice in terms of length. But I removed the bass in the first 8-bar, introduced that pad, and then keep that nice little accent going alongside all my drums apart from one perk. But then for the second 8-bar, I then introduced the other lead, which just really adds to it, takes it another level, and add another perk to show we're entering like the hardest section of that 16-bar chorus. But then moving on to the verse, it's a total of 3 8-bars, making it a total of 24 bars. But looking at the first 8-bar, I take away all the drums apart from my 808, my clap, and my hi-hat, just keeping it relatively simple. But then I keep that main piano alongside that accent kind of lead. Then coming into the second 8-bar, and I reintroduce that nice little lead again, the other one that's a nice little counter melody, alongside one of the perks and the kick, just to further emphasize the hard-hitting aspect of the verse. And then for the final section, which is the last 8-bar, also known as like the pre-hook or the pre-chorus, whatever you want to call it, it's that little 8-bar before the hook drops again, so you want to kind of build into your hook. And all I do to do that really, cut off all my drums, let the whole thing play out in terms of the sample, and of course I've got that bass coming in, but I reserve that nice little like pad sample for the chorus because I think it sounds really good, and you know, it's a bit of variation. And then all I did was copy and paste my chorus twice again, as you can see here and here, and then have that extra verse in the middle right there. And there you'll have it, guys, a full video on how to make some dark beats by yours truly. And if you've enjoyed it, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. All the support is always appreciated, and leave some feedback on what you want to see next. But with all that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.